welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB. We're jumping into Spike's Corner today on the main pay-to-play, you might say, account. The account that all those packs and sponsorship got transferred over to, hence all that craziness. And what are we playing today in Spike's Corner, where we're testing out spiky decks? I've got some requests to choose from. Today we're going to try out mono blue aggro. So this mono blue, well, I say aggro, but you know, tempo, basically in a nutshell, built around Curious Obsession. All about that Curious Obsession. We're also going to be taking out a sideboard today. I don't often play with the sideboards. I don't often play sideboarded games. Mostly that's all about not wanting to get too deep into a match. I would rather play quick games and get new opponents. But for Spike's Corner, I think it's fun to show these kind of things. If you want more sideboard guides and more stuff about how to sideboard, that's a future stretch goal for Patreon, where we can do another series on the channel every week showing sideboarding and various transformational sideboards and things like that. Anyway, let's go over here. Let's enter a competitive constructed event. Ooh. Yep, the highest level of battle offered by MTG Arena at the moment. Ooh, we've got a Curious Obsession, but we don't have something to throw it on. But I still think I keep this hand, since we have a counter, a Trickster, and an Obsession. We could throw it on Trickster. That's like a last resort. Trickster don't fly. Trickster has no evasion. And this hand could definitely flood. With 20 lands on our deck, we're already looking at 4 of them. So there's a lot of ways it could go wrong. There's a few ways, though, that it can go right. Let's see what our opponent is playing. Oh, okay. We're just going to do the mono red thing already. All right. Well, I could try to ambush with Trickster and see it get blown the heck up, and the next turn I could play Stormtamer with Wizard's Retort to protect it because it's a wizard, and then the Obsession. This is a tough matchup. Not gonna pretend otherwise. You've gotta believe that the Trickster will die. However, killing the Trickster and taking my opponent's second turn to kill the Trickster, I think, is a decent use of time and mana. And there, they had to cast a Lightning Strike to get in 1 damage. Alright. Now we'll play out our Stormtamer, try to protect it with a counter spell, probably from a Goblin Chain Whirler, then hope that Curious Obsession can lead us to where we need to go. There we go. So far it's playing out all right, but we have used all our tricks. We're relying on the top of our deck from now on to carry us. That's a good one. In fact, I think that the plan is to play the Tempest Djinn, protect it with the Stormtamer, and put the Curious Obsession on the Tempest Djinn. So I'm going to leave up the mana here for the Stormtamer activation. By the way, that's a great draw. We didn't stop to acknowledge getting lucky. Thank you, luck gods. And that's annoying, as that will wipe out the Stormtamer. But then we're gonna... Oh, there's a good draw too. We're at 17. We can deal 6, then probably 7, then probably 8. That might be enough to win the race, especially when you have a counter spell. So let's race. It's a very big Djinn. Opponent's gonna go for the burn spells on it. And let's hope they don't have one more. Whew, that was close. Fanatical Firebrand. One damage is not 2. Alright, oops. Misplay on the land. Well, let's put this out. Let's put this out, make it even bigger and harder to kill, and see if the opponent can kill us. They have 6 damage. It's not enough, and we steal game 1 on the back of a top-decked Tempest Djinn in the midst of quite a flood. Now, for this matchup, that's what Diamond Mare is here for. And I think a few Spell Pierces don't hurt. There are a lot of burn spells, so in some cases Negate over Essence Scatter, but there's also those creatures you gotta deal with. Warkite Marauder, I think, is at its worst here, and we can take it out now that Diamond Mare can run the show. We could also take out some Mist-Cloaked Heralds, but I still think that they're very important with the Curious Obsession. You don't want to lose all of your early creatures. Going up to 4 Spell Pierce. Chart of Course is slow. You don't want to do that. The Spell Pierces could replace some of the Wizard's Retorts, which are slightly slower, as we just have to protect our creatures. But the burn deck's spells are also cheap enough that Spell Pierce won't always hit them. So maybe Negate is the right option there. Dive Down's definitely the better option regardless. And we still do need to Essence Scatter those vicious, vicious Chain Whirlers. 1 card to cut. The more expensive counter might be a good call, but mainly what we brought in are creatures, so taking creatures out seems wise. Mist-Cloaked Herald, because it's only good with a Curious Obsession, I think can get a little trim. Maybe it's supposed to get more than a trim. Maybe I'm supposed to pull another one. I haven't done a lot of the sideboarding, so I'm doing it mostly on instinct. Be patient with me if this is absolutely grinding your gears because you know the sideboard plan already. We can learn together. Awkward. Especially on the draw. We might be run over. However, I do have a Djinn and ways to protect it. There's usually not a lot else you can ask for, as Djinn is kind of the granddaddy of the matchup. But if we get run over, so be it. Alright, no 1-drop. Curious what kind of sideboarding our opponent might do. See, that's the other thing. They might sideboard into the bigger, more card advantage-y treasure map version of red. Oh, that's not a treasure map. That's a Pyromancer. A Herald. We don't have a way right now other than the dive down to protect it from a Chain Whirler. But we do need the creatures. It's a low impact creature, but it is a creature. And something we can play next turn. The dive down could protect it from a Chain Whirler if we wanted to block a Pyromancer, but there's an Essence Scatter. I'm going to play out the Mist-Cloaked Herald here. It would be unfortunate if a Chain Whirler just got slammed on us. But instead it's another Pyromancer, which have to get a little bit lucky sometimes. There's a shock. I'm going to use the Spell Pierce while my opponent's mana is low, although this could be used on an Experimental Frenzy in the near future. Yeah, I'm going to save it for the Frenzy. Playing the dive down also means the opponent can't attack this turn, or I will eat their Pyromancer. So it also saves 2 damage, whereas the Spell Pierce would only offer a trade. Another one. All right. Well, I could play the Djinn right now, but it would be naked. So I'm going to play another Herald, and I'll probably take these trades if the opponent attacks into these. And I'll Essence Scatter a Goblin Chain Whirler or Spell Pierce a Frenzy. Rekindling Phoenix, that can certainly meet an Essence Scatter. Our opponent, I don't know if they run those main deck, but they certainly seem to have some larger creatures now. And I will take these trades. Keep that board clear. If we draw a land, excellent. Now here comes our Tempest Djinn. I don't have an answer right now to another Rekindling Phoenix, but Gitu Lava Runner doesn't scare me. Wizard's Lightning, okay. And then their last card, a shock of some kind, will be Spell Pierced. And we've got him on empty. The Lava Runner can still attack here though. Because my Tempest Djinn has damage on it, I wouldn't trade it, so no blocks there. Let's play a land for sure so we can hit hard. Let's opt. Maybe we find Curious Obsession. Just like we drew it up, my friends. Crunch. Let's draw that card. A Siren Stormtamer to protect the Djinn. Not that it should need protection from a 5 damage spell, but you never know when your opponent will sideboard in to fight with fire, and they'll scoop this game up. Gotta be happy to steal a match from the mono red deck. No Diamond Mares in sight, but it wasn't particularly close on life. Since we also run cheap spells in the blue deck, we were able to make a lot of early plays as well. Well, shall we test that theory? Shall we mulligan this specifically because it doesn't have one of those cards? I don't think so. It's the right land to spell ratio. There's an opt to hopefully help you find the card you need. It just doesn't feel right to mulligan that, but maybe I just am not aggressive enough with mulliganing for those cards with this deck. But sometimes it works out. Here's the Marauder. If we get a turn to put the Obsession on it, we'll be in good shape. And it looks like green-white. Wild Growth Walker with a Johnny's Welcome. Well, at least somebody knows that somebody else agrees with me that the enemy is the red deck. The ability turns any creature into an 0/1 and they lose all of their other abilities until end of turn. So that's what happened to our friend the Wild Growth Walker here. I bet it's Jadelight Ranger. Or perhaps a Conclave Tribunal. It is a Conclave Tribunal. So we'll wait till it targets the Warkite Marauder. One trick they could use is to, if they were really next level, they could target Curious Obsession instead of the Warkite Marauder. It's a little less reward if it works out, but I can't use Dive Down to protect the Curious Obsession like I can the Warkite Marauder. So there's a little tip for you when you play against this blue deck. You might want to use your Conclave Tribunals or your Ixalan's Bindings when they resolve to target a Curious Obsession, because Dive Down can't save it. Alright, now for the slow march to death as we strive to counter whatever our opponent plays. Pride Mate. Well, that can be a pretty big creature. We'll see how this goes. I still think we're okay racing. Especially drawing multiple cards a turn. Merfolk Trickster can really help. It's still, so when you make things lose their abilities, if they still have their counters like +1/+1 or -1/-1, the power and toughness still reflects that. So for example, this isn't an 0/1, it's a 1/2 because of the counter. In case anybody was wondering about that. Alright, let's play Merfolk Trickster so we can get reduced. Do I still need to leave up Dive Down? Actually, I don't still need to leave up Dive Down this turn, I don't think. I think I can play this counter. But does ambushing with Trickster do anything? No, it doesn't. So let's go ahead and play the Trickster. It's not like we'd be able to block and kill something. We'll tap you down, and we will Wizard's Retort away the Voice of Plenty with an extra mana available for Dive Down. Because this is a wizard, and you can flash it in first, then cast this, it makes the Wizard's Retort 1 cheaper. All right, we can attack with both because the Trickster, the Warkite Marauder, can make the Wild Growth Walker an 0/1. So it would have to chump block the Trickster. Opponent's not willing to make that deal yet. Another Obsession. We could play it this turn, or I could just, which is a little more mana efficient. I think I'll just try and opt right now. Maybe I find a Tempest Djinn or something like that to play to shorten the clock. Nope, just land. That's okay. Cycling through those lands. I will go ahead and double obsess the Marauder. Just to be mana efficient, have the mana used for this turn. I've still got the protection. Here comes a beating. Long way for my opponent to go, though, if they want to make it to the finish line on that. Do you think it settled the wreckage? I think it settled the wreckage. Nope. So, Obsession with the double draw. And let's go ahead and play our Tempest Djinn, in case something should somehow happen to the rest of our board. The Immortal Sun. I mean, that doesn't beat us. It does show us what our opponent's up to. Life gain, explore, the Immortal Sun. So this is kind of game where Exclusion Mage could be very interesting. I don't think we need the Diamond Mare. Negate and Spell Pierce are both interesting when your opponent is playing cards like the Immortal Sun, and Conclave Tribunal is a very expensive removal spell. But generally, I don't think our deck needs a lot of adjustment. In fact, I'm willing to cut the Spell Pierce here because I just don't think they have that many spells. Dive Down can certainly take on the Conclave Tribunals. And we still have 4 counter spells in Wizard's Retort. And the rest being a tempo along with Essence Scatter, I think is right for the matchup. So I'll play it like this. Not very afraid of things like the Immortal Sun. Excuse me. While I turn on the heater in my room. Mulligan that hand. Mulligan this hand. Keep this hand. We need a Curious Obsession off the top. And lands. Alright. Start waiting. Leonin Vanguard. Can't complain. Okay, Flower for a land. That already is a pretty land-heavy draw, I would guess, for the deck, although it does go up to the Immortal Sun. No attacks. Alright. Land off the top. When you're hot, my friends. However, I don't think that playing Tempest Djinn here is wise. I think something bad could happen to it. It is blue-white. It is white-green. But if I wait for one more land or for some flinch by the opponent, I think I give it another turn. It feels right to wait for another turn. As long as we have a counter spell and we're ahead on the board. Okay. Love that Ajani's welcome, right? No fear of the Trickster. Interesting. Well, we're both in an awkward staring match. I'm going to keep leaving up counter magic. My clock is faster than theirs. This is progress. At the discovery. We could counter this, or we could counter the creatures when they occur, but we can't counter the Memorial to Glory. So I think that's a good enough reason to use a Wizard's Retort here. That and the fact that we have another one. Racing is awkward against a deck that gains a lot of life. Alright, well, I still think my opponent might have a Tristani, something of that nature. It's very harrowing from this position to play the Tempest Djinn, but I think I need to keep the waiting game going. And that's a good reason to. That's a good reason. But when I untap, I will no longer have those reasons. Not without another counterspell in hand. Now the waiting game is against me. So let's start playing the Djinn. And there's Tristani. Balls. Well, they can't attack through the Djinn. Oh, there's a Conclave Tribunal. So the hand was great. It was slow rolled, but it was great. And by that I mean just that they took their time playing out the cards, not that they actually slow rolled me. I think we just have to play another Djinn and hope for the best, as nothing else is going to effectively block these creatures. And if they have another Conclave Tribunal, another removal spell, we're just dying here. Well, they don't. They don't have it. This is interesting. They can make a lot of creatures, and they can gain some life, but are their attacks effective? Not yet. And that doesn't stop them from coming at me, though. All right. Down to 12. I'm going to keep attacking with these. Gotta pressure that life total somehow. They're not gonna kill themselves. Probably. We might take a lot of damage, though. Oh my god. Well, that's a good draw. Well, you see what their deck's trying to do now. Lots of life gain for the Resplendent Angel triggers. Everybody? Everybody. Yeah. Alright. You can block here. You can block here. 2 blockers. We'll use the dive down to protect the Warkite Marauder. Here comes an angel. Alright, another Tempest Djinn. More blockers. We do have the Herald can attack. We're at 6 though. So being a 5/5 is so obnoxious here. See if this here, a pair here. Yeah, we can't be aggressive anymore, can we? All right, leave them on defense. So what did we counter? We countered a Path to Discovery and a Shalai. I do feel like those needed to be countered. I feel like they needed to be countered, so not a lot of regret there. And not a lot of regret for not playing our Tempest Djinn on time. I think this one just didn't line up with us. Ooh, no attacks. So you're telling me I get some time? Okay. Trickster. That could be very useful. Taking away the Discordance ability in combat could be something. I'm gonna send in the Herald. And we'll start chipping away. See if that inspires our opponent to act. Another land. That doesn't activate the Angel because it has a 3 white in its cost. Triple white. Second Tristani. Yeah, not much I can do there. They have to sacrifice one because it's a legendary creature, but they're going to gain a lot of life. So let's hope that they attack here so I can ambush them a little bit. But if they don't, then before their end step, I need to take away the ability of the Resplendent Angel so it doesn't make another creature. Okay, well they're attacking with this to its doom. Because they want an angel. So I will play the Trickster. And I will take away the angel's ability so they don't get another angel. My turn. All right. The opponent says, good game. Interesting. I don't think it's over. A Curious Obsession off the top would be very nice. They don't have enough lifelink to make another angel next turn unless they draw a creature, which, reasonable. Do I keep attacking with the Heralds? They have more creatures now, so I think I have to leave the Heralds back on defense, as we might have to gang up on something. A Path of Discovery is a good draw, but it won't trigger anything this turn. It's good for the future, that's for sure. There's an Exclusion Mage. How can we trick something here? Making the opponent replay Resplendent Angel is interesting. We can also bounce the token. Yeah, I think bouncing the token is the right one. Now the question is, do I also attack with some things? Because at that stage I can send the Warkite Marauder and the Tempest Djinn, and I have blockers for 1, 2, 3. It's interesting. But we can do a bit more damage. So this blocks here, this blocks here, these can block one here, this can block here, this can block here. It's fine. It's not perfect, but it's fine. I wonder if I'm also supposed to attack with the Heralds. It sort of baits a bigger attack, which is interesting, and could do something good. Yeah, I'm gonna try it. Might be too aggressive, but I have to be aggressive from this point if I hope to somehow pull off the game. I need my opponent to brick and draw like a lot of forests in a row. That's not what I mean. Not what I need at all. So they're going to make another angel. Okay. Ah, what a mess. What a mess I've gotten myself into. The Flourish on top is going to super pump the team. I'm a million miles from getting somewhere in this game. Yeah, I think it's time to pack it up for this one. There's persistence and there's stubbornness. And there's the ability to know the difference. Alright, game 3, all the marbles. I do feel like Spell Pierce should come back in. The opponent's leaning on very expensive enchantments and plays. And I think replacing some of the dive downs is fine. We saw that they sort of sit in the hand and don't do enough against my opponent's spells here. Now, do I want to bring Dive Down in for anything else? I don't see it. I don't see it. I think everything else is where it needs to be. We're a little high on creatures, but I think we need to be. Actually, it's 20-20-20, right? It's the perfect balance. If you're wondering why the deck is named what it is, that's the person who requested that I play this in Competitive Constructed. Alright, we got a creature and an obsession. It was the master plan that brought us to victory in the first game. Alright, I'm going to opt. My primary targets are Tempest Djinns and counterspells, not lands. I don't think that there's a lot to be gained from waiting to see what my opponent's first land is. Or whether or not they have an Ajani's Welcome, for example. Alright, a Vanguard. Oh my. So 3 lands in a row on top of the deck. That always gets you excited. I always like to make sure I actually scry that land to the bottom. Ooh, they play Llanowar Elves. This is a good time to have it on the draw. They're so strong on the play, but when you're on the draw, it's a good way to sort of break serve on mana. Yeah, no blocks. Popped off the top. Here's the Obsession, but we don't have the Spell Pierce. We don't have the Dive Down, so... Well, we took Dive Down out, so that makes sense. But this is going to be a scary moment. If our opponent has a removal spell and it resolves, we are in huge trouble. The Flood is real. We've had 7 lands in our top quantity when we run 20, so the Flood is on. The Spell Pierce is missing. The counter magic is missing. Will we be able to find it in time? Will our opponent be able to jump through this opening and crush us? If we untap from here, you gotta feel much better, but it's all about this turn. Pride Mate. I'm gonna counter it. That long pause might have meant they have Tribunal too. They have a Wild Growth Walker, so they can start gaining life and bashing. But we get to untap another Essence Scatter. Doesn't necessarily protect our Walker. Or Marauder, I mean. That's a Djinn. I think this is a case where I need to opt and see what I see. If I see a counter spell, I will take it. If not, yep, we're going to instead start playing Djinns. If the opponent has a removal spell, we still have the biggest flying beater around. But big turn. What does the opponent have? When to tap out, when not to tap out, friends. It's just something you gotta feel. Use some, dial in with some experience and try to figure it out. They go for the path. Wow. All right. This Essence Scatter could be crucial. And there is another counter. Take away the ability of the elf in case they meant to make mana for any freaking reason. Drop them to 8 life. Oh, that Herald is clutch too. So I was debating whether or not to play another Djinn, and then I'd only have 1 counter available, but now I can play Herald, and with the island and this, even if my opponent gains the life from the Vanguard, I can kill them next turn. And with 2 counters, I should be able to keep their creatures from resolving. It might all work out after all. And the opponent having to think. The tension is high. There isn't a lot to say. This is the moment where you just stare across the table at your opponent in tabletop Magic and say, you just give them time, let them think, because it's a tough situation. If you were there, you'd need to think a lot too. I actually don't have a wizard on the battlefield. I only have 1 counter available. That is kind of tilting to me. My opponent goes to combat. They trigger their Vanguard. They attack. No blockers. No plays. Is it a March of the Multitudes? Or Settle the Wreckage? I suppose it could be. Target the Wildgrowth Walker. Settle the Wreckage. Counter the Settle. If you are out there sideboarding, I mean, I don't know what's in their sideboard. I would not want Settle the Wreckage for this matchup. Not at all. Not against a deck with counter spells. But there it is. We took it. Woo! Well, I hope you enjoyed this first section of Competitive Constructed. We're at 1 loss, and with 1 more win, we break even. And if you are enjoying the video, the patrons can get access in the supporters only section of the videos to see how it ends. So even the lowest patron tier, starting at just $2, you can get additional videos showing the rest of this Competitive Constructed event. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.